Are we live? We guys in the back, are we live right now? I can't tell. Oh, hey, we're live. No, I know there's no one in the background or anything. I just like to do sometimes, but Ben and Rob do on Edge of Wonder. Cameras rolling and they're just like, we're oh, hey, we're back on. Yeah. Anyway, happy Monday afternoon on the East Coast right now. You're coming on 310, and I have the TV muted right now, watching the situation going on in New York City. A helicopter crash. Looks like trying to make a hard landing. At least that's what one media source was saying. Hard to tell. I mean, it's too early to kind of guess anything about this right now, especially if you're not in the immediate situation as a first responders would be. It kind of changes the point. As being a first responder, sometimes you got to get there, get things, find out the truth, build from there, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, hope y'all had a good weekend. Hope you had a very busy but relaxing, productive, wholesome, spiritual, enlightened weekend. Wearing my LSU shirt. LSU played. I'm a little sports fan. Always will be a Louisiana sports fan. Saints, Raging Cajuns, USL, LSU, or UL Lafayette, New Orleans. Very much Saints fan. Somewhat of a Zephyrs fan, and somewhat of a basketball fan. But all around Louisiana sports is a good thing. But anyway, LSU had a powerhouse baseball team. They've always had a really good team off and on, but they're trying to get again to the College World Series, and unfortunately lost to Florida State Seminoles. Florida State. That's all I'm going to say. My family in Florida State in history, and not a Florida State fan. I'm a Florida fan. Always be a Gator fan, but not a Florida State fan. And just Florida State beat LSU last night at Alex Box. Just like, it hurt a little bit. So let's talk about what today's video is going to be about. Get right down to the point. Growing up in South Louisiana in a predominantly Roman Catholic area, was, I thought, the norm. My family have been Catholic for generations. Most of the Cajuns that came from Nova Scotia to Louisiana, French, Spanish, Catholic, and when you start doing your research about the Roman Catholic Church, or, if we've paid attention to what Ben and Rob have talked about, there's a lot of history of not really good things. And it's really, really sad to have to grow up, and then you learn later on that what you were, I'm not going to say brainwashed, but when you started your education in kindergarten at a Catholic school ran by nuns, great nuns, beautiful school, love my school, love St. Edward's. Nothing wrong with the school. It's just the higher institution of how it feeds down and trickles into the veins worldwide. You can understand how the Roman Catholic Church and the Vatican, probably one of the most richest countries in the world, for the simple fact that if you can get them all branched out, and definitely in the Catholic Church in Cajun country, they'll will houses, money, land to the diocese. It happens a lot. It's something that just became commonwealth. It became no big deal. But you think about that, and then you think about on a higher level, if that's just one area, how it can grow and grow and grow. And ergo, if you've ever been to the Vatican, if you just Google the amount of money that it took to have these treasures in there for the hundreds of years and keep doing the same thing, working the same wheel. They know how to run a business, plain and simple. I got on a little tangent, and I apologize. Sometimes I will do that, but I promise you that what I'm saying in a tangent, there's a lot of sense behind it. There's a lot of truth behind it. So growing up Catholic, starting from kindergarten all the way till 12th grade, literally my entire early education was through the Catholic religion, Roman Catholic religion, through Catholic schools. And of course, church. I was an altar boy. I fell right into the mold. At a very young age, I was very connected to, I guess, Christ, for the simple fact that as a child, I was picked on a lot. I had a stuttering problem, a really bad stuttering problem. And I was weak. I was very sensitive. And, in sixth grade, I want to say, was when it got really bad. I came home crying one time. Oh, and my dad might have been rich in the restaurant business, but my mother and father were divorced. So I had a mother who raised three boys by herself, and she did an incredible job. And then I had a father that we would go see in New Orleans, and he was mega rich. He was a very famous chef, still somewhat. You can Google my name and it'll instantly come up. I'm not hiding anything like that at all. But I had two different worlds. I had a very poor childhood, and I had a very rich childhood. And the reason we were able to go to school was because my father paid for my Catholic education, and I will forever be in debt for that, to have that education that he did for me and my brothers. That being said, we were only able to see one thing and one angle as a kid growing up, going to church every Sunday, becoming altar boys, ended up singing in the choir. I know you can't tell my voice is a singer's voice. Not really, but it can be. That being said, it was my world. It was my world, and I loved it. I was very bad in science. I was okay in social studies, but I was straight A in religion since I was a child. Heck, I can pull up my third grade report card that I framed because I had to go through third grade 2 times. I was put on Ritalin, which might explain some stuff too, when I was a child in third grade. And it was probably one of the first children to ever be on Ritalin. It would have been 1988 or 1987, somewhere around that time. But I was put on Ritalin, repeated third grade, so that my brother and I could actually be in school together. Becoming an altar boy was almost like that step before going into discernment and thinking about if you wanted to go into the priesthood. So I was constantly around priests as a little boy. I'm very fortunate, very, very blessed that, to my knowledge, that I know right now, that I never was really sexually abused or anything ever really happened to me. I think I was maybe too strong. I don't know that they saw that would strengthen me, because it was all about control. It always was about control. It's never about the act. It's about control. And I can tell you that as being a sex offender detective for the Iberia Parish Sheriff's Department. And I went to sex offender conferences, and where we heard from victims who had been sexually molested, both within the Catholic Church and out in the civilian world. And it doesn't matter if it happened in Arkansas, or if it happened in Russia, or if it happened wherever around the world when these abuses happen. It's about control. It's all about control. And then you can see how everything trickles to so many other things around the world. It never happened to me, and I was blessed. But I was molded. I was still molded. you're a great altar boy. Have you ever thought about becoming a priest? A young child, they tell you these kind of things. And it does go into your head because you see the priest on the altar and it's like, oh my gosh, to be standing like that and to command that kind of attention and to look amongst a congregation and know that they're listening to you and that they're soaking in what you're saying. There becomes a little ego thing to that. And then you can see how the church built itself like that, on that thought process. You could have it all if you just come join us. I went to the sermon retreats when I was older, which was at one of the seminaries here in Louisiana. I went to 2 of them, and I was close. I was, excuse me, take a little sip real quick. I was this close to going down that road. And fast forward a little bit, even in college, I was part of the Catholic program at Nichols State University with the Newman Club and the Catholic Church there. And I had a priest one time. I was putting on my robes, and I had a priest one time came behind me, and he put on his collar on me, and he said, "Doesn't that look good, Father Alex?" I'm like, "Nope, take it off, no." I learned when I went to these retreats that, yes, these are servant retreats. Yes, I am a servant to the most high servant of them all. But I don't have to get into a flock like this. The real aspect of being a minister to the servants of God is that you minister in the world around you every day. That's the true message. You don't have to have a collar on. You can be a chef in a kitchen, or a cop on the road, or a sailor in the United States Navy. People sometimes just want to talk, and sometimes the best ministry is just to listen and soak in what they're saying and having your experiences and utilizing that and having them understand their journey. That's the true ministry. I went to college, went into the military. And before I went into the military, let me just back up real quick with my story with the Catholic Church. We're going to start ending it right now. My time frame is we're at 12. I don't want to go too much longer. I know the attention span and how people think, and I want to kind of keep these brief. When I was in high school, I did projects and made friends with the Marino missionary priest, and made friends with Loyola, or professors at Loyola who did political science, and worked on a project about the factories along the U.S.-Mexican border called the Maquiladoras. And learning about the Maquiladoras, I learned about how poor these Mexican people were, who were working for American factories and making very little money. This was about 25 years ago. I'm not versed on the Maquiladoras today and what's going on with that situation, but I would think things might be better, but I'm not sure. But I got to immerse myself into the Mexican people who worked in these factories. Okay. I got to go to Juarez as a high school senior who just graduated from high school and walk around some of those poorest people I ever seen in my entire life. Went to a Mexican store. We all gathered as a group that I was with, and we had a goal was to make a Mexican lunch with the wage that we would make that day. And the wage we made for one day's work was 35 cents. This was in 1997. And so a group of us, we bought cheese, lettuce, fresh tortilla, amazing cheese. I mean, as a chef, I think the tortilla is fresh. It was amazing. It was absolutely just an amazing thing. So we made lunch, and we got to immerse ourselves with the actual families who work in these factories. I got to literally be in their presence and listen to them talk. And and just hear their stories. But you know what's the one thing I heard out of every single story is that it did not matter how poor they were, because they had the one thing that could keep them together. They had love. They had the ability to hold on, that no matter how hard it is, we love each other and we will get through it. Their message, their story, their love transcends, and it should still transcend today's world. But I will tell you this. I went into one of their chapels, okay? And their chapel was a trailer. Literally a small trailer, plywood, nothing of substantial. And their altar was a carpenter's table, a real carpenter's table. And their tabernacle they built themselves. And above that tabernacle stood the most bloodiest crucified Christ, the crucifix, I'd ever seen in my entire life. It truly showed, if those things would have happened like that, how bad the human body would have looked. The knees were skinned to bone. The blood that was absolutely all over it was horrific. There was reality. They kept it real. They kept it 100. And I'm talking about the Mexican people that I met 25 years ago. Okay? I'm not speaking for what may be going on now. I'm talking about for what I saw on that border town of Juarez. And I saw love. Fast forward to the Navy. And I was blessed and honored and humbled to serve my country in the United States Navy. And I was allowed to go to Rome and to tour the Vatican. This little kid who grew up on the bayous was literally standing in St. Peter's Basilica. It was very interesting. Very, very interesting. And seeing the Sistine Chapel and then going into the Vatican Museum. I mean, the Navy opened up they gave us free tours pretty much, that we could just tour the Vatican and not really have to pay for much. And it was an amazing experience to be part of that tour that everybody goes through and to see these things. And then you see the crucifixes of the Vatican, and they're glorious. They're beautiful. Doesn't look like there's any pain on that cross. It's like we forget that it was a torture. Why would we have our Christ on a cross depicted like that? What if we teach glory and love and forgiveness and faith? Why show that? I can understand dying. I can understand that. Believe me, someone who went through a near-death experience, I can understand that. But what it does when you go through something like that, it enlightens you because you realize there is no fear of death. Once you experience that birth. Yesterday, I actually made it 23 years that I had my bicycle accident, my near-death bicycle accident that Ben and Rob were talking about. But the point of sharing that story and the other side is that once you go through something like that, I think a lot like our people who were part of alien abductees, they weren't really alien. That was the government utilizing technology and doing tests. And then let's have them think it's something else. It's all about control. But you know what it's really all about? Love. Because with love, there is no control. There's no need for control. For when we love and truly love, We love with everything that we are. And when you give of yourself, the grace that comes back, the faith, the strength, it's better than anything else around. This is my second video. Thank you for your time. I thank you for your love. Thank you for being who you are right now in the world that you live in and what's going on in your world. Be blessed. Know you're blessed. Know you're loved. And know that in this time of even still things crashing into buildings in New York City, we got each other. That's all we need. That's all we need. Have a great day. And ending now.